You guys can have matching bestie tattoos.
Hey, there you go. Welcome to the Incoherent Fangirl.
Where we are really gonna piss off some men this episode.
So excited. So excited for this. I have to say my name next.
Yes.
I forgot where I'm from. No, I didn't. I'm Mandy from New Orleans.
And
Nolans if you're Southern.
I am Karin from the Pink Unicorn, which
Hey,
I
Pink
really wish
Unicorn
was a
Club.
real place.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now say something mean.
I'm so sorry. In our timeline, it is September 12th, and in y'all's timeline, it is September 20th. Tomorrow is the spookiest day of the year, other
I'm
than
on
Halloween.
vacation.
Nice. That sound means we have an intruder alert.
And it's a human intruder.
You guys are so excited. We have Kyle Prue, author of How to Piss Off Men, 100 and
Oh,
Hey,
109 things to say
chippies.
to shatter the male ego. I'm very excited about this because boo men.
We love that here.
So, welcome. First thing we usually ask our guests is to kind of give an elevator pitch of the book. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but if you want to do that.
yeah. How to Piss Off Men is a handbook, I would call it, perhaps a field guide, a manual of how to piss off even the most relentless mansplainers in your life. It covers a wide variety of different things that have been tested mostly on me to trigger and dismantle the male mind. It was originally a TikTok series, and a lot of people reached out to me and they said, I love these, but I can't think of them fast enough, like on my feet, you know? And
Yeah.
I decided that we needed something that was utilitarian, something that could be brought out
Yes.
into the world.
Pocket
And
sized.
pocket
Yes.
size, yeah, I really wanted because the fun thing about it to so many people was the fact that people were like, I'm going out and I'm trying these. I'm texting these to my hinge
Yes.
dates. And I was like, no, like we need to take this to the streets in like a, in a movement,
Yes.
Yes.
and so we created this, tiny little, flip book.
I
I
love
love
it.
it. I have to grab this. I have a dog here. My dog is here and I don't know if y'all can hear him, but he's screaming because I have pissed off this man by giving you guys my attention. But
Mm,
now he won't come to me. So yeah, I'm sorry.
he's playing hard to get.
Anyways, okay. So I've been following for years the How to Piss Off Men series, but what's the origin story? What made you want to be a menace to men?
It was kind of always in me. A lot of times I go on podcasts and people say, "Oh, you hate your dad, right? That must be it." And that it's actually the opposite in that, like, my father was the like sweetest and funniest person I had ever met, and was so good at self-deprecating humor. Had such a sort of like, like he was very I don't know what the right word. He was very flexible,
Mhm.
and when I got to middle school, I met all these men who started, or boys who were becoming men who were going through puberty, and I found them all so disappointing, and I found their like fragileness so disappointing, and so I always knew that I really I couldn't hack it with most men, and then it really got kicked into high gear when I moved to Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is the city of pitching yourself, and it's the city of inflating your own stock. And I would go to so many house parties. And when you move to LA, you don't go to any cool house parties where there are cool people. You go where all the other, transplants who just got out of film school are. And I remember just having so many things explained to me by all these guys, and I just couldn't bring myself to affirm them. I couldn't do it because I knew that if I did, they'd go out and they'd torture their hinge dates with whatever they had told me. And so I decided that I needed to add a little sourness, a little bitterness to the world. And so I just started, it was just a reflex that I had that slowly, I posted one on TikTok and it went super viral. And someone was like, "Do you have more of these?" And I was like, "I actually have a notebook full of these."
Oh my God.
And yeah, it had always been kind of my thing, to the point where, like, when we were at bars and someone were like to like approach our group, I would have some of my friends be like, "Kyle, just please don't do whatever you're gonna do. Like,
Please
please,
don't.
like, can we have one night out where you don't fight
Yeah.
a 40-year-old?" But I don't know. I just love it. I just can't help it. And so really this is kind of the gig I've been preparing for my whole life.
It's
I love
wonderful.
it.
Thank you
we're
for
glad
giving
you
us the
did.
gift.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Well, and it's interesting too, when I was going around town and pitching this book, I had a lot of people be like, well, your audience is pretty much primarily women, and so why isn't this, we would maybe prefer this book to be written by a woman, which I think was a fair point. And then I had a couple people read it and they were like, oh, this is so much about the way in which the male mind functions. And unfortunately, I have it. And so a good deal of these are things that people have said to me, and I've been like, oh, okay, good. Yes. I've achieved a sort of academic zen with my own ego.
how, how did you decide what made the book and what was just gonna kind of continue living in your own brain or your own notebook?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because some things work so much better in a like delivered format. There were so many of these that I had that kind of only worked when I was able to say them out loud. And so a big part of it was pitching jokes to people in writing, like sending my agents or sending my editor a joke in writing or a thing you can say to piss off men in writing, and seeing if the comedy carried, and seeing if people could find it funny without sort of the crutch of like me knowing what emphasis to put on what words.
Mhm.
And there's little tidbits in here about like the way in which these are best delivered. One of the things I said was questions delivered with concern. Um, and so yeah, I think it was a little bit of spot testing, and we had editors come through and read. It's funny when you write a book now, at most publishers they have what's called a sensitivity reader, and the sensitivity reader will go through and determine if anything might upset people. And pretty much for everyone, she was like, this could upset men who do blank. And I was like, yeah, God, with any luck, I guess.
That's the
Yeah,
point.
this is the goal.
I think we had like 50 to 60 like sensitivity notes, and I think we ended up taking like one of them.
Oh,
But
God.
I just because I was like, I was careful not to put anything in here that I think was, like problematic, but they were like,
Right.
this could piss off Star Wars fans. And I'm like, yeah, thank God.
Yeah, please. Hopefully they don't use the force on me. All right, so I have three. I have like been scouring my brain and
Mm,
watching encounters with men since we knew we were going to talk to you. One of them, actually two of them need you to like look at something, but has anyone ever mentioned your forehead? And when they're
mm.
like, no, the fuck, you just kind of glance up and just, oh,
Or even like
ouch.
it looks a little longer than last time I saw
What
you.
happened? And then another one kind of leads into that. You should probably just go ahead and lean into bald. And you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
say
yeah,
this to a man
yeah.
with a full head of hair, even.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Have you
then he's going to
considered
start to
bald?
spiral. Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
considered bald?
It's funny
And
because like
then, yeah, no, you
just
go ahead.
about hairlines in general is that it really is the thing where no matter how you're doing with it, you can find evidence that your hair's leaving if you want to.
Yeah.
Like a lot of
Yeah.
the men in my family have, a lot of them at least, full heads of hair, and even they are like poking at the the corners.
Am I thinning? And then the last one, you were the baby, huh?
Mm, hmm.
Mm.
Used to
I
getting
mean,
your way.
yeah, and my husband was the baby, but he's not the traditional baby. So like that wouldn't land with him, but anybody else, they'd be like, "Oh God."
Everybody I talk to for long enough is like, youngest sibling, huh? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I hit you with that one too.
No, no, no. I know what I am,
Yeah. Okay.
So this is you've been an author before this. This is a bit
Mhm.
of a departure from what you used to write. What was kind of like the mindset going into this book versus like your previous writing?
Yeah, so originally I started with fantasy novels, and that feels like a lifetime ago, honestly.
Look,
It's funny,
dude.
yo, yay, hey, what up? I was gonna say I don't even know if I have all three of them. I have the ashes. It's funny. I think with fantasy, there's so much of a conversation to be had with the audience about how things work. And it's interesting because there's so much that you have to exposit, but everybody lives in your world. And it's you can't operate on the understanding that like people will know what the characters know. And I think like that was one of the things that I think like eventually I kind of started pushing away from fantasy, in the sense where I I couldn't keep it all straight. You know, like I would go to Comic-Con and someone would be like, well, how can they da 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 da? And I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I didn't think about it. All right, yeah, it's my memory is not so good because I like to have fun. But I would go I would go meet with book clubs and someone would mention a character and I'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea who that is. You know, like, or people would say, what happens after the book? And I'd be like, I don't fucking know. That's on you. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
I didn't
I
write
left it here.
Yeah,
I did
you know,
my
I'm not
part,
sure.
guys.
And people would be like, is this character gay? And I'd be like, yeah, if you want him to be. Yeah, like
Yeah.
rock and roll. It's up to you, you know? And so with this, it's very different because I think I'm operating on a sort of like inherent cultural understanding. You know, I think like there's a lot of there's a lot of things that I was like, okay, like we all live in the world that we live in. So I can hopefully say things and hope that the majority of people kind of just have a general understanding of where I'm coming from. And you know, there's not so much narrative in this. There's little sections in which I sort of like talk about my own life, but I think the priority here with this book was not making sure that it was such like a great story per se, but was making sure that it was a thing that could offer enjoyment to individual people and also groups of people. You know, the idea that this was a gift that you could give someone and that they would flip it through and there were like things you could talk about and it could instigate conversations. Because one of the things that I really didn't anticipate, I think, when I started doing How to Fish Off Men was like how much of a conversation about masculinity it would be and how much of a conversation about how gender's changing and how like our understanding of like where, you know, where we fall on the sort of like cultural ladder. And so I think that a big part of it was like, okay, like this, I think this has to be funny, but this also has to open up something interesting about the way in which like a male mind works. Not that a male mind is different from a woman's mind, but just that men are socialized very differently. And sort of what that gives you and how they utilize it against people and how it can be turned back against them.
Okay, so if people go to your TikTok or your Instagram, they're going to get your sarcasm and your, you know, let's piss off men that you're known for, but you also have a heart. Can you tell us about sparking literacy?
Yeah, absolutely. When I was touring with my first book, I went to schools all around the country, and I went to school in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, and Naples, Florida, and the majority of those were public schools, but they were really good school systems, and they were like nice areas, and I think that those schools were well funded and the class sizes were not huge. And as I toured, I started to understand sort of the literacy crisis in a way that I had never realized it was affecting Americans, young Americans. And I started researching like deeper and deeper into how literacy affects everything in your life. You know, how literacy affects your ability to advocate for yourself. And sort of the statistics that I was finding, I realized that like if you really do want to turn someone's life around, especially a disenfranchised person, like a person who didn't grow up in like great school systems or people who grew up in underfunded school systems or just really schools that were strapped for resources, that if you could give them the tools to be able to empower their literacy, it would make a humongous change in the way that they were able to find upward mobility. So what we started doing is we started bringing on other authors that I was meeting through touring. And the idea was that we would donate visits to these schools. We would donate books. We would donate author workshops. We would basically, I think, teach young people, especially disenfranchised people, that literacy is not only essential, but it is also a way to open up so many different kinds of worldviews. It is probably, I think, the most essential skill you can have in the modern world. And so yeah, we've been operating for a very long time. We took a break during COVID because we had to a little bit restructure. Because of course we couldn't go into schools, and I think hands-on workshops was a big part of what we were doing. So we kind of transitioned a little bit more into Zoom. But yeah, I think one of the things that I realized, which I think people who don't tour in this way maybe don't have as good of an understanding of, or people who make policy don't have an understanding of, is that like the kids in the underfunded school systems are not different from kids in well-funded school systems. they're just as smart, they're just as excited, they're just not being
Curious. Yeah.
and like young people are so wonderful. And I think a certain expectation of what their life is going to be or what their life is on track to become, I think really, really creates a really deep wound, a deep hurt in people. And so it was really important to us to, bring things that these well-funded schools were getting to, schools that weren't.
And you were really young when you started this too, right?
Yeah, I was 18, 18 years old. Yeah, it was yeah, yeah, I think, literacy reading in general was the biggest part of my life for my entire life. And so I think it felt very natural to me. I was said like, oh, like I just have to, get these tools in as many hands as possible.
Yeah, that is really admirable.
Yeah, especially as an 18-year-old, you're not, most 18-year-olds aren't thinking about how they can essentially change the world because, you know, most 18-year-olds are generally more self-centered than that.
And yeah, they're the center of their
Their
world,
world, yeah.
which you
So,
should be, but at the same time, you should care about other people too. So
Totally.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I think a big part of nonprofit work in general is asking yourself like how in which ways was I like blessed when I was young? Like what tools were given to me that really helped me out and like finding the gratitude in that and being like, okay, how do I circumnavigate these systems that are in place to deny those things to other people? And yeah, I credit my mother a lot with a lot of that too, because she was touring with me and she was very, very, she was also, incredibly shocked by the state of things I think that we were witnessing. And I think it was sort of our brainchild to create this thing.
I love
I love
that.
that. You go ahead, Karen. Sorry.
Okay. So we've talked about like your writing and all of that, but you're also an actor. What
That's what I
came
was gonna ask about. I was gonna ask about Rabbit.
what came first? What do you have a favorite among the two, or is it kind of they're all your love children?
Yeah, I got put into acting into theater because my parents just could not get me to shut the fuck up, and they were like, they were like, we need to get him tired somehow, and they couldn't do it with sports, so they said we'll go to theater, and so I always grew up acting. But I think, yeah, the way I describe it to people is if someone said, Kyle, you can never act again, I think it would be like losing a finger. It would be something that I always thought about. But I could go on. I think if someone said you can't write anymore, I think it would be like losing an arm. Like I'd go on, but it is so much a part of how I live. And it's funny, I went to acting school in college. And the reason I did that was because after the book tour when I was 18, I had taken a gap year. And my parents were like, you don't have to go to school if you don't want to. Like, this is going really well, don't feel pressured. And I thought about that. And I thought about just being an 18-year-old and all of a sudden just being an adult in the world. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I've never had
Yeah.
alcohol, like so I applied to acting school because I was like, well, this will be fun and it'll be easy. And that was before I knew that like acting is like the hardest.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And it's funny that it's like acting's a thing that I've been doing my entire life. And people ask me like, how is it done? And I'm like, oh, I don't really know. Like it's such a difficult thing to explain to people. So what I was really doing in college, I think, was I was taking a really active and considered look at the way that actors speak, because I decided I wanted to, if I like wrote theater or I wrote film or I wrote television, I wanted to be an actor's writer. Like I wanted to write for a great performance. And so I was kind of gathering the skills and the tools to act myself, but a lot of it for me was like watching people and observing the way in which performance happens and asking myself, like, how do I write in a way where it feels seamless to actors? Because my experience has been like sometimes I show up to things and I realize they haven't really thought about the script, and they haven't really thought about the language, and I would ask, writers, I'd say, why is it this word? Why isn't it a different word? Or why is my character saying this? And finding out that people weren't quite sure. And so really wanting to avoid that, I wanted to write things where actors felt like there was nothing they could say other than the line that was written. And that'll be a constant, crucible for me for the rest of my life is writing language that actors like to speak.
You're a playwright too, which is so wild to me to like writing books is hard enough, but having to write stage direction and lines and all
It's
of it.
It's
Like
actually a
how?
little easier in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, well, here's the thing about writing a book is you have to do everything. Like your all of your words are the product, And I think
That's true.
when you get into theater, everybody kind of like field tests your words for you, and you kind of get this like workshop phase, and when you get into film, film is on most levels a collaboration of hundreds of people, and so
Yeah.
I do think the hard thing about writing a book is that it's like top to bottom, the entire experience is determined by the language. And I think with film and with theater, everything is an interpretation of the language. And so I think with theater and film specifically, the real big thing for me has been finding collaborators who I trust, like, and with writing novels, you have your editors and your sensitivity readers, but really at the end of the day, it comes down to you.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think with film, there's people lighting every shot, and there's makeup, and there's costumes, and everybody's kind of coming together to make the story happen. But yeah, I do think the thing that's really, really, really difficult about theater that isn't a part of anything else is you have to watch people say your words hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
God.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh boy.
that's the hardest part is sitting in the audience and sitting around people. I started being in my plays because I just couldn't handle watching. I the first ever play I put up, we had two shows, and the first show was our kind of late night show, and the late night show is packed and everybody's drunk because it starts at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And so I go to the late night show, and it's a comedy, and it felt seamless to me. Like I just sat there and I was like, I'm the best, man. I rock. And then the next night was in the middle of the day, a matinee, and there were like 5 or 6 people in the audience. And really hearing every word like hang in the near silence of the theater, I was like, oh, I'll die. Like,
Oh
I was just gonna
no.
leave.
Oh
like
no.
intermission, I went and intermission, I went and had a couple cocktails because I was just like, I got it. It's tough, and I think the one thing about writers that's really hard is you get to a certain point where every word becomes very precious to you, and you hit a moment where the play is going on and you're like, well, that's not the right word, that should be a different word. And you finish and everyone's like, that was great, and you're like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Get out of here. Leave.
Oh my gosh.
All you do is lie.
That's a fair point. I've never thought of it that way.
No.
Now I'm just like, okay, I'm okay where I'm at. I'm
Yeah.
good.
I know a lot of playwrights who put it out into the world and then they vanish. And yeah, I mean, it's a trade-off. It's instant feedback. People you hear people's reactions. You hear whether or not people laughed every line. And but when you write a book, it's like, all right, the book came out, but the book's 400 pages and it's going to take people a couple weeks, and your reviews won't come until the end of the year, and you wrote it like 3 or 4 years ago, and so that's tough because that's just a really long feedback loop.
Yeah.
People come to you and they say like, well, why'd you do this? And you're like, I don't remember anymore. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
even I don't know.
What is that? Did I do
I
that?
have no idea.
Okay. We don't want to keep you too long, but we do have a couple questions we ask all of our guests.
Mhm.
This is the moment where everything you've ever consumed is going to leave your brain.
Okay.
We have a segment on the podcast which we call Fictional Boyfriend of the Week, where we pick a fictional character that we are like obsessed with, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a boyfriend. I've had a fictional granny. We've had fictional pets, fictional found families. Are there any characters that you're like really vibing with? You think people should know who these people are?
This could be book, show, movie.
That's a really good question. It's
This
tough
is like you're like,
because
what's a book? I don't know.
I'm like a book, really. I'm like, have I
I ever seen
read
a movie?
I'm like looking at my bookshelf. I'm like, I'm looking for
Yeah.
something I didn't write. I think the tough thing for me is that what makes to me an incredibly compelling character is none of the traits that make a good boyfriend.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like, I think maybe one of the greatest characters ever written is from The Secret History by Donna Tartt is Henry Winter. Henry Winter. Have you guys read The Secret History? The Secret History is, it sort of created this dark academia subgenre. And like it's
Hey.
weirdly perhaps about Donna Tartt's life, and like, it's about this sort of like little group of classics majors at the super elite college, and they end up murdering one of their classmates. That's not a spoiler, that's on the first page.
Okay.
And Henry Winter is this guy in the group who is sort of in charge of the group. And he's like 6'5", and he's super broad, and he's like speaks 10 languages. And he's like sort of an indomitable human being. And like his intelligence is completely unmatched by like anyone around him. And I think everyone in the book tracks how well off they are by proximity to Henry. And however, the thing that, I mean, like, I wouldn't want to date this guy. Like, I wouldn't want to date a guy who's like speaks 10 languages and,
Yeah, that's
kills
intimidating.
kills
Yeah.
people if he has to. And the other character I was thinking about is Tom Wambsgans from Succession. You know, Succession. Have you guys seen Succession?
No,
I
it's on
have
my
not.
list.
Yeah, I think we've got
If I
different
if I
cultural,
turn on a
like,
show.
yeah, he Tom Wambsgans is like the he is a man whose status changes based on who he's talking to. So like if someone is beneath him in the totem pole, he will abuse them endlessly. But with his wife, he is such a sniveling sort of weasel. Like the actor calls him a grease stain of a human. But sort of the ultimate idea of Succession is that like there's all these like, sort of like badass, well off, like really, really, really forward, energetic people, but the person who actually can make it ahead in like a multi-billion-dollar corporation is a guy who has zero allegiances and has no fucking idea what he's doing. And the thing that's really brilliant about the performance is that he's constantly assessing where he is in the totem pole. And if the status shifts, he'll shift with it, and he'll immediately become this like sniveling little loser. But then he does this thing with his like interns, which is called human furniture, which is where like he like puts his legs on like interns like as if they're footstools.
God.
But if you've
I
seen the
love
show,
that.
he's not a great partner.
No.
But as a fictional character, I kind of love it.
You're like, I agree.
Yeah.
This is great to watch.
Yeah, because I think the great boyfriends are rarely in the book. You know what I mean? They're in a few
Yeah.
pages of the book. Do you guys have like a good example of like the perfect fictional boyfriend?
Oh, Aaron from Shatter Me. Aaron Warner. I'm an Aaron Warner
Okay.
girly. We have matching tattoos. It's serious.
Yeah.
Wow, damn, that is pretty serious.
They're very serious. Don't tell her husband.
No, don't tell my husband. He knows. He paid for the tattoo.
That's true.
It was a Valentine's Day gift.
Thanks.
Okay. Another one that we always ask is like we obviously love your book. I haven't read these yet, but they are like very soon on my list. But what are you reading? What are you recommending, or like favorite books?
Yeah, I mean, Circe by Madeline Miller
Mhm.
is really, really, really phenomenal. I think like Song of Achilles had its humongous big TikTok moment, and Song of Achilles is an incredible book. I think the thing that I really love about Circe is like it's a story that follows one character over thousands of years, which I think is just remarkable and wonderful, and it really recontextualizes so many characters from like Greek mythology, and there's this kind of trend, I think, not trend, this sort of movement, I would say, of like women reinterpreting the myths of old, and like lending so much nuance to it. A Thousand Ships by I think Natalie Hayes is also like that. It's about the women of the Trojan War. It's really phenomenal. And then The Secret History by Donna Tartt is for me maybe the book that I most commonly return to. It's one of those books where when I tell people that I've read it, they're like, yeah, of course you have. Like they're like, yes, I can tell now instantly where you got your personality. I'm reading right now. I'm trying to get through all the sort of classics. I'm reading The Sun Also Rises, which is Hemingway's first book, and it's great. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's Madeline Miller. Have you read the short story? It's like Galatea. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's about this woman. I want to say she's like made of stone. She can't move or something. She's like controlled by her husband, and she ends up pregnant and having a baby, and he's trying to make the daughter just like her, and so she finds a way to not be stone. I can't really remember how.
Yeah.
like what her specific thing was, but it's a short story and it was phenomenal.
She's the greatest. And I think one of the things that she does that is so phenomenal is that she really does do the work to ask herself, like, what is the true like emotional core of what this character would be feeling? Because in myth it's pretty much, oh, and then this character did this and this character did this. We don't get much of like the psychology behind these characters.
Why they did this.
Right.
Yeah, like there's this thing that she has in Circe where she talks about Odysseus, and the idea of Odysseus like blowing around in the Aegean Sea for like 25 years. And she talks a lot about his just infinite frustration. The idea that like they used to have these giant like spokes, or not like giant steel like rods that they would hammer into the earth to like ground ships to the beach. And she talks about him like one of those, like steel pieces of equipment. And the idea that even after 20 years, something as like direct and firm will get brittle and will start to bend. And the idea of this like incredibly strong and, like this is one of our Greek heroes, like the fact that he is just kind of losing his mind from the amount of like, hardship and that he's been through, and like the confusion and the aimlessness. And I think it's just really phenomenal because it's a thing that you don't really get if you do like read the old myths,
Right.
Yeah, for
She's
sure.
a wizard. That one. She's a word wizard.
Speaking of word wizards, what comes next for you, Kyle, after How to Piss Off Men? Do you have anything in the works?
Yeah, I have a 2-book deal.
Awesome.
There's another one coming. It's a book that I wrote in college. It'll probably end up being the book. I have to decide. It's funny because we've just been full speed ahead on this, and we haven't really talked about what exactly the next one will be. But I wrote a sort of a like a primary source document, almost like if you were to find a journal in this kid's attic, the top part of a house. It's about a poetry student who gets banned from poetry because his therapist and the mental health people working with him think he's far too volatile to be like entertaining his own emotions anymore. And so he starts making lists. So it's like everything in his life broken down into like numerized and like quantified digits. And so it's the idea of like, are you any different if you're really emotional and you're making a list of ways to get better, or if you're writing poetry? And so yeah, I think that'll probably be next.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Well,
I cannot wait.
It's interesting. I think, even from being in this interview, I'm like, wow, there's kind of like I've pivoted a lot, from like, fantasy books to, TikTok to acting to, and so it's always hard for me to say like what exactly is coming next. But I do know from there will be one more book next year, and then probably a few books after that.
Very exciting.
Well, speaking of, Karen's got bad news to tell you.
We do have to let you know that, unfortunately, now that you've been on the podcast, you're actually legally obligated to come back for all future book releases.
Oh, listen, I read the contract. I knew what I was doing.
Most people don't read the fine print.
Right. There's a team of lawyers off camera right now, just nodding at me, just saying like, yeah, you got to go back. Well, that's great. I'll be back.
Yeah, that's awesome. We can't wait. Thank you so much for being here. This episode is airing after the book comes out, so everybody head to your bookstore and pick up How to Piss Off Men. It's amazing and hilarious, and
then
so much
use
fun.
it, put it into practice.
Yeah, take it into the world.
Knocked down a peg.
We want to see and tag us when you do it, because we want to know how it works.
Destroy the fabric of society, please.
Yes,
love it. Thank you so much, Cal, for hanging out with us. It's been so much fun.
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
We'll talk to you soon.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Oh my god, I can't believe that.
Did that really just happen?
Oh my god.
That was so much fun.
I can't believe that. I have followed him for years. That is so crazy.
I adore him. I love him. That was amazing. I'm so
happy.
happy.
And like watching his TikToks, you think like, oh, he's just a sarcastic, like funny comedian. No, like he's a playwright and a, philanthropist.
He can be serious too, guys.
Like a serious, he's got a freaking fantasy series, guys. Come on.
I love how he was just like, I don't remember. I'm like, this is why I didn't write
For real.
fantasy, because I can't remember shit.
I know. I'm in the throes of editing fantasy, and I'm like, what have I done?
Good luck, girlfriend.
What have I done?
You should take you should do what E.B. Asher does and have an encyclopedia so you can reference back to, because that sounds amazing.
I meant to say this when Kyle was with us, but he's no longer with us.
Don't say it like that.
17 years old. USA Today was calling him a voice to be heard.
Love
17 years old. Yeah. Wild.
That's insane. That's amazing. And we got to talk to him.
No big deal.
Oh my gosh. We're so cool.
The coolest.
That sound means we have another intruder alert.
It's a repeat offender.
Yes, it is. We have Dominic Lim back. This time we're talking about Karaoke Queen Friends. I just am in love with this cover so much.
I know.
Like,
oh my gosh.
Welcome back, Dom.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you. You know how it goes. Let us know, or let the listeners know who haven't heard of it. Give us your elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Karaoke Queen is my second book, and I do want to do a shout out to Abigail Lee, who was the cover artist for Karaoke Queen, because it's getting all sorts of amazing
the contour. The contour on her
Beautiful.
face.
It's
like
perfection.
the details. The
Amazing.
details.
Yeah, she knocked it out of the park.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, my editor, Alex Logan at Forever, was trying to find someone who has done a lot of art of drag queens, and Abigail has done that, so she's experienced. But anyway, yes, my book is about a drag queen. It's technically a second chance romance at the outset, romance novel. It is a rom-com. It is definitely a romantic comedy this time. And it is about an ex-drag queen named Rex Araneta, who has quit drag and has moved on with his life, but then runs into his ex-boyfriend from Indiana University, who is now managing a bar in Oakland called the Pink Unicorn. And the bar is not doing so well. So Rex, in his wanting to please the ex and try to get back together with him, decides to pitch a karaoke night, and which would be hosted by his drag alter ego, Regina Mundi, except he doesn't want Erin, the ex, to find out that he's a drag queen. So the book is all about him hiding his identity, but trying to get back together with his ex and going through all these
Shenanigans.
The shenanigans that happen, as you might well expect, to try to be in two places at once. And yeah.
Lots of shenanigans.
Lots of shenanigans.
So funny.
Shenanigans ensue.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's a love letter to drag. It's a love letter to the Filipino community. Yeah. So, and a little bit more lighthearted than my first book, which had I think more tears involved in the book from this one.
Fair.
Well, you kind of segued into the first question I have written down. This isn't your debut anymore. You're a seasoned pro now. So what has been different about the writing and publishing process this time around, now that you have, you're not new anymore? You're not a newbie.
Yeah, that's a great question. In terms of, there's the writing and the publishing. In terms of the publishing part, so much easier, because I knew what to expect. I know what the schedule was like and what things would be demanded of me when. But the writing part was so much harder for the second book, because my first book was, I wrote it in my spare time. It took me 3 years because I wasn't beholden to anyone. And the second one was fully under deadline. I blew past all 10 of them that they gave me over and over again. I mean, ideally it was supposed to have come out in June, but it definitely did not happen. So it was a lot harder, because I had only had the barest outline of the book when I sold it, and I didn't work on it at all during the debut of All the Right Notes, at all. And it was supposed to be. Because I was so I was involved in all the promo, and I was just really, it was sort of I wanted to focus on my first child, and
you wanted to experience that.
I really did.
Yeah, you only have one debut.
One debut.
Really.
Yeah, you gotta feel all of that.
Yeah, so I tried to make up for lost time, and so it was a lot faster writing this second book, and I had to depend on my editor a lot more for the second book.
Shout out to Alex.
Yeah.
So where did the idea for this story come from?
It actually kind of came from my husband. He kind of sparked the idea in my head, but I had wanted to explore something about drag in whatever I was going to write next, because drag appeared in my first book and I sort of wanted to carry it into the second. You know, me, and I like to write about identity and gender identity and gender expression. And that's always interested me, but it was also what was happening with drag at the time was also top of mind for me, in that a lot of anti-drag legislation was happening and all this bizarre drag backlash
Yeah.
that how it's like harmful for kids, and it's so mind-boggling. And when you take a step back and you look at it, you know that there is an intersection there between that and like being trans and gender expression, and people are definitely afraid of that. So they sort of like segue it into drag and want to make people afraid of that as well. And there are connections, but they are completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to explore a little bit of that and how it would affect someone who is going through all of that by themselves. You know, what decisions do they make? Do they hide who they are? And then what happens when that affects their love life? You know, when they meet someone who might not be accepting of that, and what decisions do they make in order to proceed with that relationship? So
Right.
I really wanted to write a rom-com, and like in a rom-com, the comedy arises out of the situations. So I felt like this was gonna propel a lot more comedy than my first book.
Oh, definitely lots of comedy.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Karaoke Queen has some pretty heavy hitters that provided blurbs too.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
was that news like to have like literary all-stars? Like everybody knows these names.
Yeah.
Be like,
So
yes, not only will I read and blurb your book, but to like it enough to write blurbs for it. Like,
I'm so, well, first of all, for anyone listening to this and who hasn't seen the book, it was blurbed by, on the cover specifically, Christine and Lauren, and then on the back, Ali Hazelwood and Abby Jimenez. I mean, come on, like that's crazy.
Everybody in romance knows those names.
exactly. What a pinch me experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, for the first book, I was like, get your blurbs, and I was like, I literally know 0 people, so I don't know. I mean, so those blurbs were gotten for me, but the romance world, as you well know, is so supportive and so loving, and the authors love to get together. And I met all of these people at Steamy Lit, and it was also blurred by Julie Soto and Sid Carter, but primarily those 3, I met them all at Steamy Lit, and then I really got to know Abby at Bookmarks in North Carolina. So it was a matter of just like, I met them, I had fun with them. I didn't really get to talk to Christina Lauren that much, so that one was, my editor had to do some pulling for me, because I never really got to talk to Christina and Lauren that much, but they were so kind to like say yes, and they all said yes immediately, so it was fantastic.
And to have an actual karaoke queen in Julie Soto blurbing this book,
I know.
like
Okay.
How much of a great endorsement is that?
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Julie Soto is a rockin' singer. Oh my God. I mean, that's her background too. Like she that's why we bonded, because we both have a background in theater and singing. So yeah, when we did Bookmarks in North Carolina, I took Abby. Oh, by the way, Abby Jimenez is also a really good singer, and she will fight you. And I did not record it. I wish I recorded, but she did sing like a Fleetwood Mac song, and I was like, girl can sing.
You know what?
She's been holding out.
She can sing.
The mother of Maya, I believe it.
Yes,
I believe
there you
it.
go. Exactly. Yeah, her daughter
She got
Maya
it from somewhere.
Yeah, she had to get it from somewhere. Yeah, her daughter is a musical prodigy.
Genius.
So yeah,
brilliant.
She's a genius. So it had to come from somewhere. She's a great singer too. But yeah, Jolie is. Yeah, she's amazing.
I love it.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So fun. So I would like to know why there are no recipes in this book, because there was so much food, and I need all of it. Like, what the heck? What the heck? Are you holding out on us?
Okay, I have to like save something for my newsletter that I finally am putting out after like a year and a half.
Fair, fair.
Yeah, so for the first book, Alex wanted to put in like everything in the kitchen sink in that book. I mean, if you recall, it's got like music programs and a letter to the reader and a recipe and like everything. So this book we were not as ambitious. We're like, let's just get it out. It's barely gonna
Are
get out.
the
Let's just get it out.
are the recipes that they're like the food that they're making in there, do you have like family recipes for that?
Oh, I definitely can, and I will be putting them in my newsletter for sure. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
mean, I
so
love to cook.
yeah.
We
Everybody
always
sign up.
joke that like any book that makes us hungry, we're like, we wish there was like a delivery service where it's like you get the book and you get the dish
The dish.
Yeah.
so that you can eat. We
At the
need like
same time.
HelloFresh literary edition.
Oh
Yes.
my God. Okay, wait, I'm trying to think. How
This
can
is
I?
like truly like I feel like there's a collab that needs to happen between
Yes.
publishers and HelloFresh. Like
Yeah.
that would be killer. Killer.
I think
Well,
the first
actually,
time we came up with
yeah.
it was like Fake Dates and Mooncakes, or it
Oh,
might have
yeah.
been a Lauren Kung Justin book
Where
where we
Probably.
were
yeah,
like,
right, Lauren.
I
Yeah.
need
Laur-
this delivered.
Lauren
Need
and her
this
food.
delivered.
My God.
Well, and you know that Lauren and I have the same editor, so
Yes.
there's a common
Well, then
theme
we're
here.
blaming your editor for
Yeah.
not providing delivery.
Where's
meals.
my food?
Oh no, I can't. I was gonna blurb out a secret. Oh my gosh. That my
I mean-
editor just acquired a new, like, not a new author, he's an indie author, but a really, really well-known and well-loved indie author, and I can't say because it's not technically out yet, so
You're a tease.
I can't.
We're very good at keeping secrets. Oh, that's that. I'm excited to look for. Excited to see that.
Yeah.
Yay.
You'll know who he is.
All right. So we know in Karaoke Queen, it's a rom-com, so there's fun and comedy, but it's also, there's some
There's some stuff, yeah.
heavy experiences. I have a very dear friend who has been a drag queen. We grew up together. He's been a drag queen for about 10 years, and he went through a lot of some similar stuff as Rex. Obviously, I can't speak for another community, but I can't wait to share this book with my friend because I feel like that shared experience will be so special because it's like, oh, I lived this.
Yeah.
And so many other people out there. What does that feel like to know that people will relate to Rex and like Rex's experience?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And it's something that I think many people, drag queens, will relate to, but also it's an experience that so many, let me just say first, so for so many gay men specifically, because it's not, it's really about femininity and being femme as well. And then, so as we all know, so many gay men are not naturally masculine, and that there's this huge like pressure on men in general, but also gay men, and from within the gay community itself, to be masculine presenting, right? To be butch.
Right.
Like that's what's valued, that's what's sexy, and that anything that's femme or feminine is less than. I mean, surprise, because it's related to women. So it's like, it is this, I wrote about it because I experienced it myself, growing up. I experienced that sort of like familial pressure to be more masculine, that pressure from schoolmates to be more masculine, to push my voice down, to not walk a certain way, to dress a certain way, because it was survival, really. You didn't want to get beat up, you didn't want to get made fun of. And so those are the things that drag queens go through on a daily basis, sure, but a lot of gay men as well. So it was something I definitely wanted to write about, because I think a lot of people will be able to relate to that.
For
It's
sure.
really special.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about this a little bit because I was DMing you the whole time I was reading this book, because I have no chill. So there are a couple people in here that I could see maybe spin-offs of the story following along. Do we have any, and I guess this goes into like, what do you have next? But like, do we have any plans for anything continuing to be set in this world? Which, by the way, if anybody well, nobody's read it yet, but for people who are going to read it, there is notable reference that will set it in the same world as your
Yeah.
debut. So are we going to see more in this world, especially with this found family? I adore them all so much.
Yes, they will. Well, I mean, I haven't sold the third book yet technically to Forever because it was a 2-book contract, but they certainly want it, and I think it's just a matter of signing
Contracts,
the contract
all
and
of
blah
that.
blah blah. So, and in fact, I just turned in my synopsis or my outline so that they can check it out. But it is in the same universe. It is going to have a lot of the same. I mean, it's not going to be about any of those characters. It's going to be about 2 completely new characters, but a lot of those characters from the past 2 books will show up in the third book for sure.
Okay. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah,
exciting.
especially a coupling that is hinted at in the second book will come to fruition in the third book.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I have thoughts. And I don't want to say anything because of spoilers, but we can talk later. I'm just like
Other than like knowing we were going to talk to you and getting my copy, the first thing I heard about this book was Karin like raving about how you are truly someone who either, you know, lives in or knows the Bay Area because of a reference you made. She was so happy. She was so happy. I'm sure she DM'd you about it, but she was so happy that I had to tell you. She like told me about it too. She was like, he knows. He knows.
It is always surprising to me that, I mean, Karin, you're not the only person to have told me this. I mean, I've been told this by several people, and it's kind of shocking to me because like the Bay Area is like, it's not Kansas. Like so many people live here, so many people have this experience. And I'm always surprised when people go, oh, I'm so like, I was just so thrilled that you portrayed my hometown or like a town like my hometown in the Bay Area. And I'm like, I guess it's just not written that often as much as I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely not in like New York or LA or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think we live in a very specific kind of bubble here in the Bay Area where we're like everything that, and maybe it's just because like everything that we see majority wise is San Francisco, you know, that's what people
Right.
think of when they think of the Bay Area. It's San
Yeah, you're
Francisco,
right.
but like there's so many of us.
Right.
There's so
And
many of us.
and I don't really write about San Francisco. I write about the East
Mhm.
Bay. Yeah.
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 For listeners, the reference was Aaron called it Frisco, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a
It's like,
second,
wait a
and
second.
Rex is like, wait a second.
Oh my gosh, the way I posted, I think I posted that to my stories, and the way that all of like the Bay Area people that are on my
Yes.
feed were like, I relate to this. And I'm like, I'm gonna start yelling at people. I'm like, Frisco is a city in Texas. We are in California.
So Karin, this is
real?
how this
It
is how
really
I feel
is.
when I've told you before that people think that we call Atlanta ATL. You can do that like in your text message just to shorten
Oh,
it.
sure.
Nobody in Georgia is going to ATL. Like
Right.
nobody says that out loud.
one
No,
says it
like
out loud. Right.
like that's weird.
That is weird.
Oh, you're not from here. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a clear tell.
I mean, that's the great thing about it, those sort of like hometown sort of that knowledge that, yeah, no one else is going to know about that. And you're kind of
Yeah.
like, you shouldn't say it, but also it's kind of cool to like, that's like our thing. Like,
Yeah.
we know. Like,
Right.
Oh, you're in on the inside joke.
Yeah,
You get
it's so
it.
much fun. It's like it's like a fun little Easter egg.
Little
for those
Easter
of-
egg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you know, you know.
Yep.
It's a good time. Okay, so we have a segment on the podcast, which you know very well, that we
Oh, yeah.
call Fictional Boyfriend of the Week,
Right.
where we pick out a fictional character and we love them and we tell everybody about them. So do you have somebody that you want to tell us about this time around?
Oh my God, you have asked me this question, I think
Like
like
3
3 times. And I'm always like, what?
It's literally
What's a
when you-
book? Have I ever read a?
yeah.
I don't know what a
I know.
movie
When
is.
you
I don't
get
think
put
I've
on
ever
the
seen a movie.
spot, everything just disappears. Like,
Like,
what is that word? People? What?
I don't know that people exist,
Um,
fictional or otherwise.
Okay. Let me think about this. Because the last time you asked me, I couldn't even remember his name. It was the guy from Bridgerton.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
yes. The way that everybody at StimulatCon when I came up to them was like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry. I can circle. There are lots
Just
of
a
people I can talk to."
segment.
Okay, let's do this. circle back? Can we circle back? Because I'm gonna like think about it in the back of my head, and then I will have an answer for
Okay.
you. I
Okay.
promise.
Yes, but this one might be just as difficult.
Or it might help. Or it might help.
It might help.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
What's
we
the
know we
second
love
one?
your books. We love your books. We're gonna tell everybody to read your books. But what are you reading? What are you recommending? Or like, what are your favorite books that everybody should read?
Oh yeah, I should have been more prepared.
We need to start telling people like, hey, these are two
you know-
questions we'll ask,
No,
but then it loses the fun.
I mean, it is the question that everyone asks. So we all know we're supposed to be prepared for this question. And yet,
You know what's funny? I think the funniest part is that the people that have been on more than once are the ones who get the most flustered
Yeah.
too
Right.
when we ask it. And I
Yeah.
think that's the funniest part.
because we already answered it, so we're like, oh, we
You're
never
like,
have to answer that
we're not
question
doing
again."
that again. No. No.
Like it's still I don't
Still
remember
here.
which Bridgerton brother. It's still
That
the dude from Bridgerton.
it's
Yeah.
still that guy.
Played by, hold on, I know the actor, Jonathan Bailey.
Jonathan Bailey, that's the guy.
Anthony.
I was like,
I think he's
the
my
character.
favorite.
Yes, that's the character. Okay. That is my provisional answer for question number 1, but I'll give you a better one in a second.
I didn't realize he was going to be in Wicked. I don't know how I
Oh,
missed it until I saw like the extended trailer, and then I was like, "Oh my god, it's Anthony Bridgerton!"
I
mean,
can't.
I can't. Yeah,
I can't. Like this is the best birthday present is Wicked.
Oh, is that when
My
your birthday is?
My birthday is the 26th, so it's like comes out right before my birthday in November, so I'm so excited.
I host Thanksgiving, and I'm like gonna kick my family out so I can go to the movies. I'm like, all right,
you don't
y'all
bring them
had
with
your
you.
turkey. Get out now.
See, we used to do that in my family, and it stopped when the pandemic hit. But we would always go out to the movies afterwards, like all of us. We would go to a movie. It was usually like a family movie. And we saw like all the Hunger Games movies together. Like we saw it. Oh, by the way, about the Wicked, can I just say this about the Wicked trailers? Can I just say this?
Yeah.
I cried for the first trailer because, let me tell you why. That scene where Glinda turns around and she was like, oh, you're green. And it's Cynthia Erivo, and she is like so like she's black, like black, she's black, and you're like, she goes, oh, I am, and that it took a completely. I was like, how did I never see this metaphor before? Like I never saw it before, and then she was like, oh, I am, and it was just like I literally started crying. I was like, this story has taken on a completely different meaning for me with her casting.
Yeah.
I'm like getting chills right now thinking about it.
I have goosebumps, like literally goosebumps right now as you're talking. I'm like,
it's special for me because my nieces, they live with me half of the year when their dad is working overseas, and they're biracial and they love like they're Wicked girlies too. And one of them said, honestly, I want to get up really early on Thanksgiving and paint myself green. And she's like, and I'll do Thanksgiving green. And then we'll go to the theater and I'll be green.
I love that. I love that so much.
We don't care.
Oh my gosh.
Family's gonna be like, all right,
let's go.
Come sit down.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. I can't wait.
It's gonna be great.
Okay, I'm still thinking about your questions. Okay. Oh my god.
You're so funny.
See, I have mine locked and loaded, and Karin usually like if the authors are like, "Hey, what are yours?"
What about you?
Karin does
and
the
I'm
same
like,
thing. She's like,
I was like, Mandy,
I answer
what
for her.
are mine? Yeah, I'm like, this is
anybody
what
Chloe Gong's ever written.
I'm easy.
I literally, we might have to pause this recording so I can go back out to my TBR, like what's on my bedside table, because I literally cannot remember anything.
Everything. It's like truly once that you're put on the spot, everything ever just disappears from your brain.
Yeah,
like,
it's like I don't think I've ever seen a TV show.
What is a book?
What is a TV show?
Now,
like for me, TV is so much easier.
Hey, they're still fictional.
Yeah, that's still fictional.
It doesn't have to be a book.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I'm completely obsessed with David Corn Sweat as Superman. I mean,
I don't think I've seen that one.
No, well, he hasn't. It hasn't come out yet. It's
Okay.
I mean, that's how obsessed I am.
I was like, I don't know that I know that one.
No, and then the new Superman movie is coming out next year, and it's Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane and David Corn Sweat as Superman, and
I love her.
I'm obsessed.
Okay,
So
see, we're Marvel girlies, so we did not know this news.
No.
So this is actually very
But you got
exciting.
Midge Maisel
This is
coming
very
out.
exciting.
I
Oh,
mean, I think it's perfect casting.
yeah.
I
Like,
can
it's
see
just
it.
perfect.
I can see it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult will be Lex Luthor. So
I'm sorry, what?
yeah,
I'm sorry, what? I love
Yeah.
that man.
I know. It's gonna be so sexy, the whole movie. I'm just
Oh my
like,
God. If I didn't
Look, I'm
already
usually a
have my
DC
bisexual
hater.
awakening, like this is the moment, right?
Yeah.
I'm converting you.
I'm usually a DC hater, but I will have to go see that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
they're relaunching the whole universe because as we all know, the old DC
Right.
universe was trash. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's why
That
I'm a
was-
DC hater.
and I can understand that.
I would always be like, but Marvel does it this way, and
Other
it's
than-
really good.
Other than Pat's Batman, that
Movie was
Oh,
flawless
yeah.
to me. I thought that
was-
movie was perfect. Yeah,
that one
you're
was
right.
I
excellent.
really liked that movie. A lot of people hated on it. I don't understand
I
why.
hated
Yeah,
it.
no, it was
Yeah.
excellent.
It was
Well,
excellent.
he didn't hate it. He just didn't like it. And I was like, he was like, it was too long. I was like, I didn't think it was long enough. I thought
I
it was
didn't-
awesome.
I
think that's
flew
what
by.
I heard the most is that it was
I
too
felt like it
long.
flew by. Like I looked down,
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean it's over?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
I loved it.
That
Okay.
was
My thing with DC that I didn't like was that they would have a like a TV show with a character played by an actor, but then they'd have a movie with that character
I
played
know.
by a different actor, where like with the MCU you have the consistency.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
made it feel more fluid.
Agreed.
Where DC was
100%.
just like all over the place.
Also,
Yeah.
just like I'm sorry, nobody is the Flash other than Grant Gustin. Like
I know.
I can't. He is the Flash. He is Barry Allen, and
But
cannot. Nobody can tell me anything.
Nobody
else.
can do it.
No.
But if they're turning over a new leaf and starting fresh with Rachel Brosnahan,
You're like, I might take that.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah, because because the person who took over all of DC
Mhm.
movies is James Gunn,
Right.
who is the director
True.
of Guardians
Yeah,
of the
I
Galaxy.
mean,
Yeah.
If anybody could
knows?
do it, it would be James Gunn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have faith.
Yeah.
Karen,
see.
what happened to me in the theater parking lot with
What-
the last Guardians of the Galaxy movie? I can't remember.
What
They were like they should have left it to, and they said a director's name, but it was not.
Yes. They said something else. They said, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Maybe was it something about what's the actor's name who plays Kirk?
They were
Sean
like,
Gunn.
Sean Gunn is such a good director, or something like that, and my husband and I were like, that wasn't who did
that's
this movie.
that's the wrong
Did it.
one. That's the wrong
That's
brother.
not it.
Mhm.
But
I
they were
forgot.
like really loudly criticizing this movie and the wrong person, and it was just
Yeah.
I had to laugh at
Their
him a
facts
little bit.
together.
I'm like, yay, guys, you're wrong about a lot.
Yeah, it's so funny how the people who are so wrong are so loud about it.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
loud.
yeah.
Like the GOP. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly
We don't
though.
get political here.
You are not wrong. Look, I'm doing what I can here in Georgia. Okay, we're trying. We're trying to fix at least one state.
It's getting there. It's very
We're
purple.
fighting
It's
for
purple.
our lives out
Yeah.
here.
Thank you for fighting the good fight. No, honestly.
Trying so hard.
Yeah, I
We're
mean, that
gonna
is
be
the thi-
purple.
That's the thing
Most.
about living in California is like I often feel like we don't have to fight as hard
Yeah.
when it comes to the national political scene because
Right.
like we're so well, at least the Bay Area, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
you
our-
guys
like
that
our
have to-
big
Yeah.
our big city centers in California are like the ones that kind of take over the whole of the state.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
a lot of the middle of the state is actually fairly red.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we have more of the numbers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's nice to not. I mean, no offense, Mandy, but it's nice to not
Yeah.
have to worry too much about like
Worry a
whether
lot.
my
I know.
rights are
Scary.
being taken away.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm like that meme all the time. Like, I'm in danger. Please. But we are a battleground state. So
You
we're
are.
one of them.
You're gonna
So
do
it's
it.
like
got it.
everybody that I can convince. I'm like, are you
got it.
registered to vote? Are you gonna go?
I
Like,
know.
here's a bunch of research. It's
Yeah.
just that we don't want Project 2025. That's
Listen,
all
if you
need to know.
love me, this is how you'll vote.
Have
because
you ever met a woman?
at this
Yes.
point, that's kind
This
of what it is.
how you vote.
Right.
Like,
Oh my gosh.
my nieces have less rights than I did when I was their age.
Wow.
That's
That
all
is
I need
just,
to know.
I mean,
That's
it's
all
the
I need to
truth,
know.
and it's Oh my God, it's mind blowing.
It's wild. That is wild to think about. Like, we're not supposed to be going backwards, guys. We're
No,
supposed to be
you're
leaving the
never
world
supposed to
better.
remove rights.
Right. I mean, I've lived a long life and I've never once in my life remembered it going backward like
Right.
it is
Right.
now.
It's bonkers,
Yeah.
bonkers. So before, if you're still thinking, before we had an interview before you where we talked to Kyle Prue about his book, How to Piss Off Men, and so we're very excited to have
Oh,
you
nice.
with your little drag queen book to help us continue pissing off men. So thank you for being here and doing this.
Yeah,
And
pissing off fragile men with
yeah,
us.
Right.
it's a good time. We're very fun here, y'all.
I've done it's probably because of Karaoke Queen, but for the past two panels that I've done at book cons has been about toxic masculinity or the anti-alpha like personality in romance. I mean that's where it's at right now. Oh, by the way, I figured out two things
Yay.
two books that I love that
Okay.
I recently read.
Yay.
And but the problem is they're kind of old, but I
That's
still
okay.
love them. Okay, they're both male romance. One is I finally got around to reading Teacher of the Year by M.A. Wardell.
Okay.
Okay, and it was fantastic. He is a fantastic author. And then the second one was the first in this series of Sapphire Cove by C. Travis Rice. And he's also, he's more well known as Christopher Rice. He's the son of Anne Rice. So, and he used to write a lot of thriller, but now for the past, I think 10 years or so, he's been doing male romance, and I never read any of them. And I recently did a cruise with him. So I was like, oh, let me read his book. And it was really good. And so my fictional boyfriend will be the guy from his first book, because he's this big burly dude. And
I love that. I think I remember you mentioning him or his book recently, and I was like, Christopher Rice, hold on, because there's a Broadway actor with the same name, and I'm obsessed with him. And I was like, he wrote a book?
He wrote a book.
Hold on. And I was like, oh, different person.
Different person.
Yeah. Also, like, I adore this man. He and his husband are both like Broadway actors, and they are so cute on the internet. I'm like, let's be best friends. And his husband's like a big reader, so I'm like, did he wrote a book? Why have I not heard of this?
But then like Anne Rice's son tracks.
It tracks. That also tracks.
It's like a Joe Hill being Stephen King's son. It's like, if your parent is like a literary mega corporation on their own, do you do anything else? Like,
I know.
You follow in the footsteps.
I feel like there's a book there about somebody who is the child of a literary giant who is just like, well, I'm actually really bad at writing or something. I'm like, hold on.
I just want to be an accountant.
That far
puts
away
me out of writing it though, because it has to be math.
How far away from writing can I go?
Yeah.
I think it depends on your relationship with your parent and also what their experience is in the industry. I think that's true for like acting or musicians or anything. Like if you were if you're Chaz Bono, right, and you had a great relationship with your mom, well, they didn't end up, but they're still a performer. So I think it's like if they had a good relationship and if they saw good experiences, they might be more willing to go into that same.
Right.
That's true.
That's true.
But
and then they'd have to be willing to like fight the Nepo baby allegations too. They'd have to actually be talented enough to not have to deal with that.
That's another thing too, like
really
that if you are someone who doesn't want to have that stress of having to live up to your parents, like
their name.
That would be hard. Yeah.
I'm comfortable where I am at. Okay, so you kind of already talked about it, kind of what comes next. You have this book that you've talked about. Do you have anything else that you're kind of working on that you can talk about?
Yeah, so there's that book. And by the way, I guess I could say it's about these two, that third book is a rivals to lovers story. And it's about two dancers from Broadway who used to be rivals. And one continued to be a dancer, the other one continued to be like a director more. And then later, the director gets asked to direct the show that Quito writes. it's a musical that Quito writes along with Emmett, who writes the book. And so the new character gets asked to direct the show and decides, for reasons unknown yet, decides to ask his rival to be the star dancer in it. So
already obsessed.
yeah. So
That's so exciting.
So a lot
we're
of the
gonna go ahead
characters
and get you on our calendar.
Yeah.
Whenever that comes on, because you know now that you've been here and this is your second time, you're very well aware that you are legally obligated to come back
Right.
for all book releases. So we'll see
Anytime.
you then. We'll see you then.
So that's what I'm working on. And then I'm percolating a new I have an idea for a new series, and it's going to be sort of more sci-fi-y, but it will definitely be a love story. And I can't go into it now because it's a whole, I'm spinning a whole world. So
That is so
but
exciting.
I love fantasy.
We'll have to
and
tell us
sci-fi,
next
so
time.
yeah, I will.
Oh
I
my
will.
gosh.
It's still percolating.
Yeah. That's so cool.
This is
I love
exciting.
that. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, friends. When this episode airs, the book will be out, so you can walk into a bookstore and grab this beautiful book. Karaoke.
How do you
Queen.
not want this on your shelf?
Like,
I mean, impossible.
It's so beautiful.
And look at the spine. Show the
I
spine.
know the spine.
It's
gorgeous.
So colorful.
Also, you know what? I completely forgot about this. The narrator for the audiobook.
Yep.
Okay, I know you haven't like officially announced it.
Well, as of today, sure, right.
Right, as of when we're talking about
Right.
it.
Right.
But what's it like to be one of God's favorites? Because truly, how like the last book was amazing. This book is gonna be amazing. Like, who are you bribing to get these amazing narrators?
Yeah. So for those of you who are listening, I mean, I can say it now because you're listening after it's been revealed.
That's
but
true.
the narrator for Karaoke Queen is none other than Manila Luzon of RuPaul's Drag Race. And
That is so wild.
it's crazy. It's like, so basically when Elise Green, who's the producer of my audiobook at Hachette, she emailed me and she was like, she's like, hey Dom, I got assigned to your book. Yay, let's go. Also, who would you like to narrate your book? My thought would be Manila Luzon. What do you think? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what kind of question is that? I was like, I don't. Aren't we supposed to? I mean, is that even possible? And she's like, I mean, I don't know. She's like, we should shoot for the moon and see what happens. So it's like, of course, that's like literally the most perfect person
Oh,
to narrate my book, right? Like probably the most famous Filipino American drag queen on the planet.
Yeah.
So I didn't hear back. I heard nothing. And finally, my editor Alex was like, hey, I don't want to get your hopes up, but if you had to choose between Manila Luzon and Jujubee, who would you pick? And I was like, what?
Yeah.
There's a choice? And she was like, well, we haven't got the audition tapes yet, but we are expecting them. And I was like, my words, what's going on?
That is
I have no idea. I don't know how to
They
function.
truly make magic over at Hachette Audio because, like, wow, do they know what they're doing?
And I will say this, Jujubee did audition. Her audition tape was incredible. And I have to say, I only chose to go with Manila because she's Filipino and Jujubee, she's not. So, I mean, but what kind, like, who doesn't want to have a choice like that? You know?
Right.
That is wild. That is so cool. Oh my gosh. I love that for you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see who comes next.
Ah.
Like, how do you top this?
You can't. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Dom, for hanging out with us again. This has been so much fun.
This was so fun.
I'm
Everybody
so
go get this
excited.
beautiful book.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty.
Get it.
Go pick it up. It's so good, y'all. It's so good.
Thank you.
And you will need just a little bit of tissues at the end. Just a little bit. It's not as bad as the other one. But
yeah, that was
but it's like a good cry too.
Right.
Like it's a good cry. So
yeah.
just be
You can
prepared.
read this one on the plane. You won't be embarrassed.
Yeah. Exactly.
I got that so many times from people who, because it's kind of like a vacation book, all the right notes. Well, my
Yeah.
books are kind of vacationing books. And so people tend to read them on the plane or on the train or on the bus going to whatever destination they're going to. It's like, like I fully cried in front of a plane full of strangers. That was not cool. You should have warned me. It's like,
what can you do?
Next
You do your
book, put a
best.
thing in the first page. Warning. Do
Warning,
not read this
don't
on a
read this
plane.
public.
No public transportation.
Oh my gosh. Thank you again.
Thank
We can't
you.
wait for whatever comes next. So we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
I
I
freaking
love
love
him
him
so much. I love him so
so
much.
much. He's such a sweet baby angel.
He's the best. When this episode comes out, I will have just seen him because he's having his book launch here in the Bay Area, obviously.
Mhm.
So I'll be seeing him, and rumor has it that a certain drag queen will be showing up. So I'm very excited. He's pulling out the drag. I'm so excited.
Love.
I love him so much. I'm so excited.
I know. He's
Seriously,
such a treasure.
guys, it's so pretty. It's so pretty. Go pick it up. You will not regret it. It's amazing. Yay.
Hey, Dom.
So I guess it's time for announcements.
An announcement.
Yay. Hold on, I'm not prepared. Where did I put it? Oh.
Oh yeah.
We're very good at this.
Mine locked to the wrong page.
Okay. Are you ready? I'm going to hold it up. So next week, we're so excited. We're going to talk to Rebecca Fabian, who wrote The Lovers. She's a
repeat offender.
You may not recognize the name, but you'll understand next week when we talk to her. We're so excited. I feel like we've been waiting forever, like years.
Yeah.
So excited. I can't wait to talk to her. It's going to be so much fun. I was texting with her when I was trying to do like my character sheets for my story. I'm like, I need you to pick all of their astrological signs so that I can make sure they're compatible. And she had so much fun with it. I'm like, this should
I love that.
This should be an author service. Like people will just give you traits and you can pair them up because she's so good at it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyways, very excited to talk to Rebecca next week. Yay!
Yay!
And now it's time for a spiel.
We do a spiel. Yep.
All right, friends, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, and subscribe wherever you are listening to us. You can also follow us on social media. We are at The Incoherent Fangirl on all the things. Visit our website, theincoherentfangirl.com, where you can also stream all of our episodes as well as read our blog. And for those of you who are interested in early access to podcast episodes, full video episodes, and bonus content, you can head over to our Patreon at theincoherentfangirl.com/Patreon to subscribe and get all of those goodies.
All the things.
Lots of fun things happening over there. And speaking of fun things, we also have a merch store where you can wear some Incoherent Fangirl merch designed by Mandy. Head over to theincoherentfangirl.com/shop to do some shopping there. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, design ideas you want to tell us that we're pretty, we will accept all of that. It will be great. You can send all of that to our inbox, theincoherentfangirl@gmail.com. We love hearing from y'all. And of course, one last way to support the podcast is to rate and review on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Please give us your words.
We love your words.
You know how we love words.
This is Patreon. This is how we feel about your words.
Exactly.
Hearts.
Lots of hearts.
Millennial hearts.
Yes, because the other kind are very difficult and hurt the hands.
Yes.
She is at Mandy Perv on all the things.
She's at Ms. Made in China on all the things.
And once you followed us on social media and you followed the podcast on social media, you can head on over and visit our internet besties. You know we love them. First stop is Here Comes the Nerd. You're going to go to herecomestenerd.com, use code Fangirl, and you'll get 10% off. Oh, no, that's wrong. You'll get 20% off your first order. Sorry,
whoa.
I got confused there for a second.
Well, you know, somewhere you can get 10% off is onceuponabookclub.com. We have 2 codes. We don't care which one you choose. We love you no matter which one you choose. You can use either code Karin10 or Mandy10 for 10% off. You can't stack them, but yeah, get 10% off, but you just have to make sure if you use Karen's code that you spell Karin right, or you're going to get 0% off, and we are going to make up how to piss off men lines about you.
Ooh, I like this.
Mm-hmm.
I like this a lot.
Yeah.
And then once you're done doing that, you're going to head over and visit our girl, Amber D. Lewis, at amberdlewis.com. You're going to add 10 of everything to your cart and then use code FANGIRL10 to get 10% off the 10 of everything. And you have now saved money.
Basically free.
Look at that. We're doing such great work for y'all.
And then last, but I mean, I guess not least, we're going to support the show husband. We're going to go to searchersbelieve.com, check out everything they've got going on there. And then you're going to go subscribe to streambeacontv.com. It's our new streaming platform where we've got paranormal, true crime, and horror content. He's on a meeting right now for some really exciting stuff. Like I can still hear him downstairs. His voice carries. So you're going to go to streambeacontv.com. And if you subscribe and use code fangirl10, you'll get 10% off of your subscription. Then you can go to searchersbelieve.com/shop. They've got some pretty cool merch, also designed by yours truly. And if you use code fangirl10 there, you'll also get 10% off of merch. I think you should do both.
Yeah, I agree. You should also, once you're finished with this podcast episode, head over and look up the Paranormal Mind and stream their podcast, because why not?
They're pretty spooky. They've been on a little bit of a hiatus of the podcast, getting the app, the streaming platform up, but I think the Paranormal Mind will be back soon.
Yeah. Plus it's spooky season. So
yeah,
even if you've already listened to it, why not re-binge it right now?
Yeah. I'm on a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Producer Mandy.
Lots of fun there.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it. Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
that's the Inquiry Fangirl.
Thank you.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
We are sponsored by our friends at Here Comes the Nerd. Pins, stickers, magnets, and more. Here Comes the Nerd has happy art for all fandom-loving hearts. New customers can use coupon code FANGIRL during checkout for 20% off their first order at herecomesthenerd.com. Coupon applies to ready-to-ship items only.